Hey all, welcome to God's Breaking News. I'm LaWanda Renee, and as always, my goal is to continuously bring encouraging words of God from the Bible, from His messengers, so that we all can grow in our love of God and our spiritual growth as humans. As always, I just want to thank the Lord for the opportunity to share my thoughts, share the word, and I pray that this message reaches those who it needs to be received, and that I communicate in a humble way. So thank you, Lord, for the opportunity. Today's verse comes from Psalms 7:14 through 17. The wicked conceive evil. They are pregnant with trouble and give birth to lies. They dig a deep pit to trap others, then fall into it themselves. The trouble they make for others backfires on them. The violence they plan falls on their own heads. I will thank the Lord because He is just. I will sing praise to the name of the Lord Most High. So again, that is Psalm 7:14 through 17. And the reason I chose this verse is, as I've been saying, that we're all on a spiritual journey. And you don't realize when you are a child of God, how often the enemy makes himself known in the spirit of others. And so you can continuously do what you do and do it to the best of your accord, and the enemy hates that. The enemy hates that. And so you're going to have haters, as we all say. You're going to have people that's going to come left and right with drama, and you're like, where this coming from? You know, you're going to be caught off guard all the time because you are living your life in accordance to God. So the enemy is always going to try to shake your ground. And he's going to do that through the spirit of others. So I wanted to make sure not only that I'm telling you that, you should be aware of that, but also know that the Lord is also present. So every time negative things happen to you through people who are enemies of yours, who bring trouble and lies and strife in your life, know that that's purposeful because that's the enemy. But also know that they're eventually going to fall on their own sword. It's just a matter of time. It's not even your time. It's God's time. I think I said this a few videos back where I was talking about, you want to be validated and vindicated. You want that in your own time as it relates to people. But it's going to happen in God's time. If you think about situations in your life when you know it was just completely wrong, that was not supposed to happen, that, whatever you want to think about that comes to mind, right? Your own situation, somebody else's situation where you know the enemy and the devil is alive, right? And they've hurt and harmed people. And you just want to be that Captain Save them, right? Because that's me. I'm always trying to save. I'm always like, I'm a child of God. This ain't right. This ain't right. But sometimes we got to understand it's God's battle. Because it may not happen today. It may not happen tomorrow, but eventually will happen where the enemy's going to fall on their own sword. Right? And whatever pit they laid up for you, they're going to fall into that pit as well. So, let people have their moment, but also know that God has it under control. And anybody that is living a life of evil and conceiving it and building it up, that they're going to fall. And it's just a matter of time before they do. And you got to realize that it's not about you pushing. You don't even have to push that fight. Because God sees all and He knows all. Let it happen. First, we got to recognize that it's happening. Realize that it's people in our lives their spirits have been uprooted by evil. And no matter what you do, you're not going to be able to you're not going to be able to correct it, because the enemy is already taken over. They're zombies at this point, and that's what I call. And they're very vulnerable. Their flesh was vulnerable, therefore their spirits were vulnerable, and therefore they don't have the wisdom in God that they need to have, not for that to happen. And it's all happened to all of us. We all have done it, and we continuously do it throughout our lives, and that's why we build up this spirit where we can't be uprooted that way. Nothing can intercede on my spirit if it ain't the Lord. Right? And so that takes a lot of time for us to do. We're going to continuously do that throughout our lives. We're building this foundation that's on the studs, and this infrastructure that's on the studs of God, right? And God, our covenant with the Lord. So just know that those around you who are your enemies, and you feel like you haven't done anything to forsake them in any type of way, and you're being the best version of yourself to them, and you're doing all the things, just know it's not always about us. Sometimes it requires for the Lord to intercede, and for the universe and for God to handle that business. So you just recognize that the enemy and the evildoers will have their just due. And you go on living your life and being the best version of yourself in God's eyes. Not trying to be revengeful. Right? Not, because that's what we want. We want validation and vindication, but it's okay. Because you know what? God is going to give you that. God is going to give you that. Evildoers will be stopped in due time. And just know that. Again, it may not be today. It may not be tomorrow. It's in God's time. So God's breaking news today is your haters are going to hate. The devil is always present. You should thank God in that moment, and they will have their just due. And you continuously live an abundant, joyful life in God's name. Let's stop being in pain because of what other people did or are doing. And God is going to find a way to uproot you from that space and that energy and put you in a space of comfort and joy. The Lord will do that. And sometimes that's going to be things you don't expect, and you're going to be questioning God. I need to be there. Yes, it was tough for me, but I needed that. But the Lord will uproot you when the time is right. And it may not be your time. It's going to be the Lord's time to get away from, what's trying to disrupt your spirit and has disrupted your spirit. And if you just confident and trying to block it out, God gonna move you anyway. I'm a testimony. God will move you. Even if you're like, okay, I'm gonna block out the evil. I'm gonna be doing what's right. The Lord will move you out of the enemy's way and put you in a space where you are safe and sound. The Lord will do that. So just know that evildoers will have their just due. You continue to be the best version of yourself that God sees. And everything will be all right. I know it's easier said than done. I know it happens to each and every one of us every single day in many of our lives. And some of us are suffering so much because of what people are doing. But that's the purpose of this entire channel. It's for us to be raw enough to understand that that's going to happen. But as long as I have my bonds and my relationship with God, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. In the Bible, David, when he was on his path to becoming King David, and he worked for Saul, right? And Saul was the one God called on first, and Saul wasn't doing what he's supposed to do. After some time, he forgot his covenant, and God chose David. And David was like, why me? I don't know why me. I'm just shepherd's boy. Who am I? Right? And so Saul would try to kill David, and David stayed running. And David was very faithful to Saul. He loved him. He did everything with integrity. He respected him. He did his job. He loved him. And Saul continuously, after realizing that he had lost the power that grace God had put on him, and it had been given to David, he wanted to kill David. And so David was just so confused, like, God, this isn't something I asked for, and I love Saul. I understand this is where you want me to be. And he would be so emotional about it, because he just didn't understand, how could he love somebody and he assumed this person loved him as well, but this person is trying to take his life. And David would, run, he would hide, he was scared. And it took for him to be in a deep, dark space with the Lord for him to understand his power and his grace that the Lord had given him. And the Lord was his armor, that he was going to be okay. And we're going to get to that later, but I just kind of wanted to say all of that when you just don't know why, you have haters. It's not what you asked for, but that's the enemy. When some people don't like to see other people do well, when they don't know what your faith walk is, they want to destroy it. Especially if they know they have the power to. So be on your faith walk with the Lord, and the Lord gonna make sure you always on steady ground. Let them have what they think they have, but God has all the power. God has all the power. All the power. Beloved, know God has all the power. And as long as you know God has the power, and you know that God is your God, and you are a child of God, you are untouchable. You are untouchable. Live your life with integrity, with grace, humility, and honor in God's name, and God will control the rest. Until another video, be blessed all.